Hi, Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and here's another interview in my series of interviews with subscribers. Enjoy. Hello, everybody. It's Stephen here from the Idiot Quilter with another Idiot Quilter Presents. And today my special guests are a couple, and I don't think they need a major introduction, but I'm going to introduce them anyways, just in case you've been living under a rock and don't know who these two people are. But this is Fallon and Matthew from Be It Quilts. And we're going to talk all about them. We're going to talk about their YouTube channel. We're going to talk about their products, which are exciting. And if you haven't seen them yet, well, we're going to talk about that today as well. But to start right off, Fallon and Matthew, where are you located?
We are in Texas, the Houston area.
Oh, okay. But I know you've moved around because I've been watching your chats, and you guys just don't seem to be able to stay in one spot very long.
He has to move. I think it's due to him being in the military before.
Yeah.
But yeah, I grew up in Florida, but I was born in Minnesota. Moved out to California after college, and that's where we met.
And we met, we got married in California, and then we moved to Florida. And then after being in Florida for a few years, we moved to Michigan, and we were there for a few years, and now we're in Texas.
And we lived in different places.
We lived in multiple places in Florida and Michigan. A lot of it's just work related.
Yeah.
And it,
yeah.
Getting tired of a place, need to try something else.
Yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with that. Variety is a spice of life. And not only that, I mean, you've got 50 states. You've lived in half of them. You might as well go for the whole enchilada here.
Yeah.
So that's great. So let's talk first, Fallon, for you, and then we'll come back to Matthew. How long have you been quilting, Fallon?
So I was trying to think, because I did want to try to prep a little bit and seem professional, which is rare. But I was trying to, I know it was when I was a teen, and I can't pinpoint exactly when, but I liked to snoop, and I would go through my mom's stuff in her closet, and she had some quilts in there that she had made and didn't finish. I learned later that they're flimsies. But I saw that and I was like, I want to try to make one of those. And she bought me fabric and got her sewing machine out. It was all dusty and old, and I just tried to do it. I had no idea about 1/4-inch seams or pressing the fabric, so it all was kind of a mess, but it just grew from there.
Yep, I know the bug. And Matthew, I know you're not well, you are a quilter now because you're working on your first quilt, aren't you? I was watching you the other day on your live as Fallon was looking over your shoulder and giving some suggestions for cutting fabric. So what floats your boat? I mean, what interests, hobbies do you have that, may not be quilting related?
So I'm a numbers guy. So like if you put me in a room with numbers and told me to analyze them, that's like my favorite thing in the world. And that sort of translates into other things like quilting or making things. I like taking a disparate set of stuff, be it numbers, wood, you name it, and creating something better with it. So my entire life, I've done metal work, I've done woodwork since I was 8, maybe. I remember, I think it was 8th Christmas, I got a bandsaw, a hammer. Like I basically got like a tool set for adults, but for an 8-year-old. So what appeals to me about quilting though is again, I'm working on 2 quilts actually, but you're taking all these disparate pieces of fabric that in and of themselves don't really say anything to you, and you put them together into a pattern and put it all together, and it actually becomes something that is art, which I really like because I don't know, it just appeals to my personality, I guess.
So basically, you're a good complement to Fallon. She has the experience, she has the expertise, you have the mathematical knowledge, and math, it is true. The analytics and the mathematics that go into quilt making do go hand in hand. And I'll have to say I'm really bad at quilt math. So it'd be nice to have somebody like you standing there. Well, I do, Walter, but giving me all of that, because I call myself geometrically challenged. If there's going to be a half square triangle that's got to go in a certain way, you can bet I'm going to put it in at 90 degrees off that, and I won't discover it until the quilt's all finished, and then Walter will look at it for 30 seconds and go, very analytical mind he has, what happened there? And that's when I do a lot of cursing and swearing, and well, he's lucky there's no sharp objects in the room at the time. But yeah, so Fallon, then how did you get started? I think you've already kind of answered that. You looked in your mother's closet and you saw all this fabric and thing. Was there anybody in your family who influenced you further with that? Did you have quilters in the family?
No, but I've always loved art. So, and a lot of people in my family really love art. It's all different things. They're like, my sister likes to paint and draw and do different things like that. And my mom always enjoyed art. So we all had a lot of influence with art. And in our home, my mom would buy any craft supply I ever wanted. I did stained glass before because I got interested in it, and she bought me the stuff to do that. So art was always a big part of our house.
So you're always a creator, in other words.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We have paintings all over our house that I've done.
I know the feeling, because I wasn't always just a quilter. I was a paper crafter too. So yeah, one thing leads to another. So for you, Matthew, then you love doing woodworking and things like that. Did you come from a family that was, well, your family at 8 years old gave you adult tools? They either really cared about you or were hoping there might be a horrible accident. Well, let's not go there.
It may have been the latter. No, so without getting too much into it, I grew up in a very unique situation. So I was raised by someone other than my parents. Technically, I was an orphan, but the person who ended up raising me didn't seem to want kids, so they just tried to give me stuff that would keep me busy, so they didn't have to watch. And not that a bandsaw is necessarily the best thing to buy.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
You were always very smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hold up your hand, please. Hold up your hand.
Yep, I got 10 fingers.
Oh, you got them all. Okay, good.
Although I did lose.
But not when you were 8.
A couple years ago. No, this is 2 or 3 years ago. I lost part of my finger, and the doctors didn't think it would grow back, but it did.
Oh, okay.
So I got lucky there. Now I can't feel anything, but it's still there.
That was a good story though, because I was with our daughter at soccer, and I knew he was working on stuff for a Christmas gift, and I get home and he's gone, and it's late at night, and I'm like, we're both like home all the time. We don't like going places really unless we have to. And I go into the garage and I see spots of blood everywhere. And I'm like, what the heck? And I go ask our son, I was like, where'd Dad go? And he's like, I don't know. And I find out later that he told him not to tell me. He took himself to the emergency room because he didn't want me to freak out. And I'm like, I'm already freaking out. You're gone.
Yeah, nothing like coming home and finding blood on the floor going, okay, crime scene. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Only thing that makes that worse is when you walk around the corner and there's a chalk outline. And you know he's not drawing out a quilt pattern. So let's talk about favorite creations, and let's talk first, Fallon, with you, because I can see behind you have shelves of quilts. So do you have something that stands out, or you're like most of us, we go, my favorite creation is the one I'm working on now?
Yeah, it's really hard because normally it's the last one I made, right? It's like, oh, it's new, it just got finished. But I think I have 2 that are probably my favorite, and one is pretty close by. It's one that I did that was my first really, really scrappy quilt, because I was always intimidated by those and making everything work and make it actually look really nice in it. So I was really proud of that one because it had like 300 half square triangles.
Oh,
and
wow.
you know what a pain those are to trim up, and then especially if you're using scraps. So really proud of that one. But one of my favorites also is my first jean quilt that I did that my dog actually loves, and he's always on that one. But I like that one because it came out a complete and utter mess. Like, it's crooked. Jeans are really hard to work with. I had no idea there was jean needles. So I broke about 8 million needles trying to put that together. I hand sewed on the binding because I couldn't get it to go all the way through it. I cut out all the jeans with scissors, and I cut out a 5-inch square template because I couldn't get my rotary cutter to cut them. So
You really
it
set
was a lot
yourself
of
up for
work.
failure, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, but it has like pockets in it, and it's a really cool quilt. And anybody who sees it, it's not like that's crooked or that's, off or anything. They're just like, oh, that's really cool. The pockets in it, and they're actually open and all that. And I don't know. So it just makes me really proud. And remember, if you make a big mess, nobody cares but you.
Yeah, true. And oftentimes the ones that give us the worst time putting together and, we don't think this is going to turn out, but it does, are probably the ones we like the best, because I've got a couple of those too, which, I mean, there was a lot of swearing going on and all kinds of things. And I'm sure that if anybody could find a way for fabric memory and play it back years later, they'd hear all of those words in that quote. That's for sure. So Matthew, for you then, do you have any, because you're a woodworker, do you have any favorite creations?
So I have two that come to mind. One I think we still have. The other we don't. So I did metal work too, and I would do more metal work if I had time because I really enjoy metal. But when I was 10, I made a metal toolbox. So I got some sheet metal, cut out the pattern, bent it together, and then I welded on a handle and had it powder coated glue.
I think Hunter has that in his room.
Yeah, so I know we still have it in the house. It is wonky as hell.
Because I was 10. Be easy on yourself.
Yeah. I was going to say metal work at 10. Yeah, okay.
But it's 30 years old. It's still held together, and it still does its job. It's just the handle is, it's not 90 degrees. It's like 87.
Which that would bother him for sure.
So that was like my first metal project, and it's something that we still get use out of because it's still in the house and it still has tools in it. Mm-hmm. And then the other one is also a metal work project. I played baseball all through high school and college, and I was a pitcher. And one of the things that pitchers do to warm up, and I should have patented this because someone patented it later and made a ton of money. But I cast basically I forgot what I used. It was tungsten and aluminum, but it was a metal baseball. And we would use it to warm up throwing because using a weighted baseball stretches your arm out. So, when you get to the mound, instead of throwing what is a 9-ounce baseball, it feels like you're throwing a feather because you've been using this metal ball that weighs 2 pounds. A couple years after I did that, and I did that in high school, so I was probably 13. There was a company that created weighted baseballs. They made them with a leather wrap, and they used a metal core, but it was basically the same thing I did. And then they patented it, made a whole bunch of money. So,
I would want to be playing baseball against you because there's nothing like a metal ball flying at your head at 60 miles an hour that, might put a damper on the game. But okay, so my next question, my original question was more geared towards the quilter, but I'm going to open it up to both of you. And instead, and this is a hard question, and I know it's hard. What type of creator would you label yourselves as? Do you go for the more traditional designs and techniques? Do you like to experiment? Are you exploratory, freeform, eclectic? Pick a term.
So I am the complete opposite of him as a creator. I feel like because I like to call myself an ish creator. Like my lines are straight ish. My points are, come to a perfect point ish. Like it does not bother me if my quilt has those mistakes in it at all. I'm just like, oh, because I like to enjoy the process. And I feel like if I start dwelling on all that, I start, not enjoying it. But since that didn't really answer your question, because I know what you're looking for, I think I'm more traditional. I like a lot of the star designs and log cabin blocks and things like that. I just don't care if they come to complete proper points.
Done is better than perfect, right?
Yeah. So I'm probably more traditional. I enjoyed looking at some modern designs and stuff, but I don't think they fit what I like in a quilt as much as more of the traditional blocks do.
Right. And so Matthew, what about you as a creator? Now, I know you're very analytical. You like numbers, you like precision. So how would you describe yourself then as a creator?
So I think there's two answers. I'm going to give you two answers.
Okay, that's fine. Go for it.
So from a finished product perspective, she's right. I won't sell. So I can't tell you how many times, like, we make slide locks all the time, and we've gotten it down to a science. But in the beginning, I probably trashed 80% of what we made because I wasn't 100% confident that it would continue for 30 years. If I thought one thing was off, or if I didn't cut it properly, or if it was slightly askew, I wouldn't sell it. Because to me, it needs to be perfect, or as perfect as you can get it.
Right.
And so as a finished product, it's very precise. And doesn't matter what I make. It could be a birthday sign. It could be coasters for friends. If it's not perfect, I'm not going to give it to anyone. So that's sort of on the finish side. On the creation side, though, which is probably more to your question, I sort of go into it with, I don't know that creative is the right word, but I just assume that whatever I want to do can be done. And I will use whatever method possible. So it's not traditional, because a lot of the stuff that I make, I think traditionally people would say, yeah, I'm not going to do that because I can't figure it out. Like, I made a new prototype that will be sent out to some people today. I made one. Yes. No, I was Monday or whatever it was. Like, great, one works. How do I mass produce this? And it took me 2 days to figure out, and I wanted to quit. So I'm like, I just can't do this on a mass scale, and I'm not going to make it one by one. And I created a weird rig that works, and I was like, great. Like, now I figured out how to do it on a mass scale, and I can reproduce these at scale. So I sort of feel like that is just sort of, there's no boundaries. If I have to use like toothpicks and wax to do something that makes no sense, like, I will pick and find things that have no reason being in a shop and use them if it means that I can get what I want.
Right. And that's not, yes, go ahead, Fallon.
It makes us a good balance, though, because he will get hung up on some things that I'm like, that just doesn't matter, though. Like, he wants everything to look perfect on some stuff, and I'm like, but they know we're hand making them, and some of the parts that he gets really hung up on, I'm like, I don't think they'll care about that part of it. Like, they want it to work.
Right.
When they have it.
Well, I was going to say that I think the two of you complement each other in that way then. And with quilting too, that's kind of what we do in quilting. For, there's the purists out there. They get a pattern. They want it to look exactly like that pattern. But many quilters use the pattern more as a guide. And sure, there's 100 different ways to make half square triangles and flying geese, right? But we find the method that's most efficient and works best for our brain. As Jenny Doan would say, has to fit her brain, right? And so in a sense, it's kind of what Matthew is saying as well. Think outside the box, make it work. I like to refer to it though as fudging. That's what I call it. Let's see, that block doesn't quite fit. Oh, I'll just fudge it. I'll make it
add a bit
fit.
of quilting around there, so it kind of covers it up.
Yeah. Applique covers a lot of sins, or a little embroidery. Yeah, not a problem with it. So I assume that you are doing this right now in Fallon, your work area. Maybe it's both your work areas. Can you describe it? Is it a big space, a small space, an extra bedroom, something like that?
Well, he'll give you exact dimensions.
I know he will.
It's 450 square feet. So it's a 15 by 30 room. It is at the top part of our house. So it's the only room in our house that is not on the main level.
Oh, okay.
And
it's a mess.
It wouldn't be creative if it wasn't.
I mean, there's standing room only in some places, and even then it's hard to walk around.
Yeah, we all have that. That's why I have a backdrop.
Exactly. Every video, and every video you ever put up is perfectly camera aligned to not make it really show what's going on in there.
That's right. So was this room then, was it basically a vacant space and you purposely set it up for this, or?
So when we moved 3 years ago,
21. So yeah.
So the room that I was using in that house was still a pretty big room, but it was a spare bedroom in that house. And when we decided to move, we wanted a little bit more property. We're very because he does a lot of woodwork stuff outside, we wanted a little more space so we're not bothering our neighbors when we're doing stuff like that. So when we were looking for a house, we were looking for a space like this in the house that was bigger. So it was kind of more looking for something like this because we knew where my channel was going and different things. We wanted a little bit more room for that.
It was a purposeful build or buy. And Matthew, so I assume you do not do your woodworking in the same room because that's a formula for disaster, right? So do you have like what do you have a separate building? Do you have a garage, a basement?
So we have a couple garages in this house, and so I have converted one of them into a shop. Okay. So it's 484 square feet. And that is actually just beneath this room. So if you ever listen to any of her videos and you hear some like weird humming in the background, it's probably me doing something. So that garage is used for all of the sort of machinery stuff.
Right.
And then in this room, I don't know, half of it is used as the assembly station
building it
for the products. Okay. I would do it in one of the other garages. It's just we're in Texas, and even like yesterday, it was like 85 degrees, and in the garage, it's even hotter. So, and we're in November. Like if you get into July, it's 120 degrees out there. So it's a lot easier to do the building inside where it's a more controlled.
And the kids will help us if it's air conditioned.
The neighborhood kids that we hired, they're not going to work in the garage, and I wouldn't force them to anyway. So it's a lot easier to have them do it in the AC.
Yeah, very different to where I live because right now we're at 6 degrees Celsius, which is basically about 42 Fahrenheit, which is still balmy. It's shorts weather, but for Canadian. But so the other thing I want to ask you, Matthew, too, is do you have a favorite piece of equipment since you're a woodworker?
Oh man, I do.
All of them.
Yeah, I don't. So my favorite. So it's a toss-up. I've got a couple CNC machines. One of them is definitely my favorite of them all. And then I have an industrial CO2 laser that we use for a lot of stuff.
I'm drooling right now.
But like, you know, our products aside, those are my two favorite because they make, with those two, I can make cool birthday and Christmas gifts. I can make signs for people, or, you know, I've got, you know, my two best friends have their own businesses. And so I can, you know, I know their favorite quotes. So I can put their favorite quote on a piece of metal or on a piece of wood and frame it and make it a cool piece and make unique gifts that way. So those are probably my two favorite because they give you the most ability to make things that will make other people happy, which is sort of fun for me.
Well, I asked you that question on purpose, knowing what the answer would probably be from what I've gleaned from your videos and things, because I have 3 3D printers and I love machines. And when you said you've got like a CNC machine in the whole bit, I'm going, oh, if only. I'd have to convert the garage, but that's not good.
They take up a lot of space.
Oh yeah, I know that for sure. Yeah, but nice toy.
I've been wanting to get into 3D printer game, and my son, he's very mechanically inclined, and we were going through his high school courses, you know, at the beginning of this year to choose what he was going to take. And there's a 3D printing, well, it's an engineering course, but you have to buy a 3D printer for it. And I was like, dude, I was trying to get him to enroll in that, so I had an excuse to buy one. But he didn't want to take the class. So.
Well, too bad. Buy one anyways. But so, Fallon, how about you? Besides your sewing machine, I'm going to ask you about your sewing machine in a minute. Besides, do you have another piece of equipment that you reach for it all the time when you're creating?
I'm trying to think, because if you take away the sewing machine, what do I even have?
Well, you're a minimalist, are you, when it comes to the toys?
I don't know. I mean, it would be, I'm trying to think of something that wouldn't sound like cliched because I love the slide lock for cutting now, but it's like, you know, we make it.
You really like your spinny
Yeah, I think
forgot what
it'd
that's
probably
called.
be the mat that I have, because it makes it really convenient right next to my sewing machine. There's a mat that I bought that has a pressing station on one side and you
Oh,
can flip
okay.
it
Yep.
on the
I know.
other. So when I got that, it really sped up sitting by the sewing machine and doing some of the things for a block where you don't have to get up and go somewhere else and press and
Right.
cut.
Well, let's talk about your sewing machine then. Now, I'm going to say sewing machines because you have more than one, don't you? We
I
all
do.
do.
Yeah.
So what kind of machines do you have?
So I have a Juki. I'm really bad with remembering the names of everything, but I think it's like the one almost
It's
everyone
the
has it.
TL 2010.
Okay.
You have better eyes than me because I tried to look and see.
And then that one's an 1149.
So then I have the kind of semi-industrial Juki, but then I have an industrial one that's meant for heavy duty because I love to do bag making too.
Right.
And I have leather and stuff, so I can make really really nice handbags. Then I have a Bernina. I did not love that one. If I could go back, I wish I would have known some of the things on what I want to do and with that machine. But and then I have some, because I've done videos on my channel showing that you don't need a fancy machine to make a quilt from start to finish. So I bought one from Walmart that was just $99 and was like, made a quilt from start to finish on it. I even quilted it on it. I was like, you don't need a fancy machine to do it.
Oh.
Now, would I recommend that for somebody who sews every day? No.
No. I know my first machine was one I got, a brother machine that I bought at Costco for like $150, had 50 decorative stitches. That's what got me into quilting. I bought it for paper crafting, but because I had never touched a sewing machine until that moment. So, but we all have multiple machines. And so if you had all the money in the world, Fallon, is there a piece of equipment that you would buy?
A long arm.
Yeah, I've got to say that's what everybody answers.
But also I need more space. So
yes,
because
that's the other thing.
Right now we would have absolutely had space if we hadn't started the business and everything, because that half the room would have been perfect for a long arm, but that's taken over by assembling everything. So
yeah,
I mean, we could get rid of the dining table. We don't really need that.
We never
know something. That's what a lot of people do. They look at their dining room and go, I'm really not using this. And suddenly it becomes an extension or their main sewing room. So yeah, I haven't done that yet because I'm lucky in the house I'm living, I have the space. But yes, I bought a long arm too about 2 years ago. And I didn't think I had the space either. It's amazing how you can find the space if you want it. But how about you, Matthew? I mean, you've got a lot of equipment to start with, but you must have something else you would want.
Yeah.
A bigger space.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'd like to go buy, I don't have the space for it now, but I'd like to get like a 5,000 square foot warehouse that I can, do stuff. But from an equipment perspective, I really like metalwork and I would like to do more of that. The problem is the electricity requirements for a welder. It would cost me $100,000 because we're in Texas, which don't even get me started there. But the amount of additional electrical conduit that would need to come into the house to run that equipment is prohibitively expensive in Texas. So if it's not that, I would like to get another industrial laser because the one that I have is great and I love it and it's huge, but I can only do one project at a time. And I would love to have a second one so I can do multiple things at once.
Right.
And I've got space for it, kind of. I can find it. It's just the time is the problem. I don't have the time to be able to do that, but I would love to have the time to do it.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. There's always something. And you said space. I mean, ideally, I'd like to have an extension on my house and it would be as big as the rest of the house in square foot and I'd still fill it. So talking about filling things up, where do you guys get your supplies? Your quilting supplies, your woodworking supplies, and metalworking supplies? Do you have places that you go to that are in your area, or are you all online, or a combination thereof? Let's start with you, Fallon. Where do you get your fabrics and stuff?
It's probably a very big combination of different places. I love to go to the local quilt shop here, the Quilter's Cottage, and it's closing, but so it seems it's a little bit farther. So I didn't go there as much, but they were both lovely shops. I really like seeing fabric in person. I know a lot of people like moving online and shopping online, but I feel like you can't really see the color as well on there, and you get it and you think it's going to work in your project. And you're like, oh, it's a little off, but I already bought it. I'm going to make it work. But it wasn't really what you envisioned. So I really like going in person. Otherwise, if I'm not going in person, I actually really like looking on Etsy for fabric that I have in mind, because you'll often find older stuff that's not brand new, that has already been discontinued in the quilt shops. And sometimes you need a larger piece of what you've had, and that's a good place to go find it on there, because a lot of those smaller shops that are just mainly on Etsy still have them. And then if you can't find it there, you always go to Fat Quarter Shop in Missouri Star and
Right. Yeah.
grab something there.
The standbys. And how about you, Matthew? Like, you've got some very specialized equipment and things like that. And what you do is very specialized as well. So who's your suppliers? Like, how do you get your hands on this stuff?
So it's both easy and difficult. So when we started this, and again, I know you're in Canada, so I apologize, but we wanted to focus on doing business with small businesses that were located here in America.
Yeah.
One, because if COVID taught us anything, it's if you're relying on stuff from overseas, like if something in the world happens, it can be impossible to get.
Right.
As an example, acrylic, most of the acrylic in the world comes from China. And when COVID happened, there was no way to get acrylic in the US, because what did exist was going for, signs in stores and banks to prevent people from coughing on each other. So if you were a hobbyist, you couldn't get it. If you have local suppliers that make it themselves, it becomes a little bit easier and you can control the supply chain of it. So it's easy in the sense that we know we have a smaller universe. The problem is finding companies that do it the right way and that can make the amount. So it took a while, but all of the stuff that I get comes from companies that are based here, that are run by small families, because it makes my job easier. For instance, one of the parts that we use comes from a company in New Jersey, small family-run company, and we realized that we needed a product that didn't exist. So I called them up and worked with their director of manufacturing, and we've designed a new part that they're going to make for us because we need it. And it was something that you couldn't do if you called up, Acme Co. or something like that, because they don't care about it.
Yeah. And the quantity would probably be too small for them to bother with.
That too, right? So it's just like our springs come from a small family-run company in Oregon, and it's a very custom designed part. They don't sell to anyone else. So finding those people is a lot of relationship building, which as an attorney, I guess I've done before. But it's just finding quality people. I believe that quality people make quality products. So I'm more concerned about who's on the other end of the phone or the in-person meeting. At the end of the day, what we're doing, or the sort of stuff I buy is, it's a spring or it's a piece of polyurethane. It's not rocket science.
Right.
So if I like you and I think you have the ability to do it, we'll figure out how to make it work. Right. If I were building stuff for a spaceship, maybe I'd be a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe. But, I think it's nice, though, that you support smaller businesses. As quilters, we try to, for the most part, to buy our fabrics, from smaller businesses, in our area, support them, the mom and pop stores as well, because they're disappearing. All that's disappearing. If we don't support them, they'll be gone. And we need them. I mean, yeah, sure, you can go onto Amazon and you can get just about anything on Amazon, but that's not dealing with a person. And you don't know where that stuff's coming from. And like you said, Matthew, knowing if it's quality people, because quality people will give you good personal customer service. And I'll pay more for something if I know the customer service is good with that, because that makes all the difference, I think, on things. So we've talked about your sourcing, we've talked about your equipment. Let's talk about the products that you're making, because this part I'm really excited about. So let's just, first of all, let's talk about why you have decided to go into a business making customized equipment for quilters.
So I love telling this story because this was never our path. But we have firmly believed with almost everything that's come in our way that it all kind of happened for a reason to lead us there. Like, I never thought, we would homeschool our kids, but when we moved to Texas, that was the path that it ended up going, which led me to make a channel because I was like, I used to work outside of the home and I felt like I needed to have something for me to do. And it was kind of something fun. And without the channel and having, me out there already doing quilting, this would have never worked. Like,
right?
Who's gonna know me and that I'm even selling this? But all these different things have led us to different places. So we walked into a quilt shop to look at a long arm because I had space up here at that time.
You had the space up there, yes.
We were talking to the woman who owned it and, chatting and we're walking out and I said, look at that. You need to make something like that for me. And she just turned and it was like, do you know how to build stuff, to him? And he's like, yeah. She's like, come look at it closer. And she's like, the family who patented this and used to make it retired and we can't get it anymore. We need it in the shop. She's like, can you make it? And he's like, I cannot because it's patented. But he's an attorney. So he found the patent, found the couple and reached out to them. And we talked about it for a while. We're like, should we do this though? Should we buy it? Should we?
Yeah, we went back and forth. And I think ultimately what ended up happening, so I reached out to the owner. It was a married couple. And part of the reason I think they had numerous, so they retired in 2020. They stopped making them in 2020, in part because they couldn't get the acrylic. But they were also in their late 70s and they didn't want to have to make it anymore. But they were like us, a crafter wife and a handyman husband. And so we went back and forth and talked about it, and they had numerous offers to buy the patents from other major companies, and they just never felt right about it. And they got to know us a little bit, and ultimately what we decided is we're going to do it. We'll make an offer to buy it, but we're going to let them dictate the price because we have no way of valuing it in a way that makes any sense. And when it's your own personal invention, I think it becomes much more personal. So on paper, it may be worth X, but to them, it's worth 3X because it's their blood, sweat, and tears.
Right.
So we just said, let us know what you want. And we decided if it was below a certain number, we would say yes. And if it was above a number, we'd say no. And it just luckily happened to be in that range. So, but it all literally happened because she wanted a long arm. I did some research online to find out where the best place to buy a long arm was. And I found a small business who had great reviews online. We'd never been to that store before. And it was sort of harmonious because that day my wife had a flat tire?
Yeah, it was a mess of stuff. It
wasn't flat. So no. Something happened with her car where it had to get towed to the dealership and it was there for a couple days. And so I was like, oh, hey babe, we got to go pick up your car. So she thought we were going to the dealership. And I told the kids, because they came with us, I'm like, hey, we're going to take a small detour. So we start driving, and 15 minutes into the drive, she's like, this is not the way to the dealership.
I don't like surprises. So I was like, we are not going where we planned.
And she actually thought we were going to buy another car because our daughter's going to turn 16 soon.
I was like, I need to know what we're doing because I had stuff I wanted to work on today.
So we end up there, and by some off comment she makes, they get interested. And long story short, we do it. Now, we have changed the design and we've re-engineered it to make it a little bit more, because the old product was out there for a few years. And so we got feedback on what worked and what didn't work. So it's a completely different internal engineering design than it was before. We think we've made improvements, and hopefully they have. And then that sort of spurred into, okay, what other products can we make? And that's where a lot of this other stuff came from.
Yeah, because we have all this stuff going, and we have all these big machines that we ended up buying. So, and we've had people ask us for different things that we're like, yeah, we can try and make that. So
can you list the products then that you're making now?
So we have the slide lock, which is the one that's patented that we got from the couple in Oregon that we, and then we have the trim locks, which use like a sticky adhesive on the bottom of it to attach to the fabric, so you can just, when you're doing half square triangles or hourglass blocks, you can just cut along the side, twist it, cut, and it holds the fabric in place, so you don't have to pick it up and readjust. Then we also started doing that same idea, but with flying geese blocks, because nobody likes trimming those.
Yeah, very true.
And really, to answer your question, the whole reason this started is because I wanted an excuse to buy more tools. Like, that's really,
Yeah.
But with the flying geese, that was not our ideas. Becca from Becca reached out to us and said, "Hey, can you make a flying geese template?" And it was like, "Hey, sure, why not? Let's put it together." So, and that's sort of, that's sort of the fun part about this is I've made, 20 different custom products for people. Right? I'll get a phone call or an email and they'll say, "Hey, can you make me this?" Sure. Can you make me a ruler? Sure. Can you make me this in a dimension? Yes. And some of those, like the flying geese template, turn into an actual product that will sell to everybody else. And some of the others probably will too. I just need more time to spend with them.
But it's really fun because people like what we make so much that they send us an email and they're like, "This has helped me so much because, I have arthritis in my hand and it's really hard to hold down the ruler. The trim lock holds us down. I need this size for this project. Can you make it for us?" And we're able to say yes. But if they reached out to probably anyone else, could they? Right. Unless they knew somebody who just had a laser and they could get acrylic and have them make it. But a company, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Yeah, probably not. Well, you've got a unique niche then because you're customizing. People have a custom and you're saying yes, but you're right. If they went to a huge corporation, no, because the corporations would say that's not worth our time. It's not worth our effort to customize something for you. So it's nice that you have that ability to do that for people. But so I want to ask you now, I know you bought the patent for the slide lock. Have you patented your other things?
So we haven't. So for two main reasons. One is patents are expensive, and they take a lot of time that I just don't want to spend. Like the entire patent board in the U.S. is a joke, and it's dumb, and I hate dealing with them. And honestly, at the end of the day, patents are good in some respects, but they're so easily you can get around them pretty easily in the US. And it's not even just that you can get around them. It's more so that I don't have the time or inclination to want to sue anybody because they're stealing something. I could, but it's just not worth it. And so, we haven't done that, and I don't think we plan on doing so. Part of it is I sort of like, so realistically, patenting the trim lock would probably cost $15,000. And that's a lot of trim locks to sell.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if Joe Schmo sets up shop or someone from China sees this online and starts making them, like, we sell them as cheaply as we can. So I'm sure in China they can make it cheaper because they get free labor. But at the end of the day,
you just threw that out.
Nobody's right. We're next to free.
If Joe Schmo sets up shop and starts selling them, I guess and maybe it's naive. I hope that people continue to do business with us because they know our reputation, they know who we are, and to your point, they would rather pay either the same or slightly more for better customer service, better options. So it just doesn't make a lot of sense to do that at this point in time.
No. So let's then talk about the fact that you get your information out via your YouTube channel. And you've already kind of explained why you started a YouTube channel. It basically became out of a need to do something besides just be at home, homeschooling your kids and doing all the other things that are associated with running a household and that kind of thing. So what if somebody doesn't know about your YouTube channel, and they certainly will after this today, what can they expect to find on your YouTube channel?
I always hope that when people come to my channel, they feel more like if I offer tutorials on there, I do unboxings and product reviews, that they're finding honesty about what I'm talking to them about in any product review I do or unboxing. And then for the tutorials, I always like to try to make them where they feel like they're there with me, not that I'm, preaching to them like this is how this has to be done, and this is. I hope it comes off more as a guide, and we're friends, and I'm like, this is, how I like to do it, but this is not the only way to make this quilt or make a project. Yeah, so tutorials, unboxings. What else? We have our chats now.
We have weekly lives, and I think, honestly, if I'm being 100% honest, which I try to be, I think those are honestly more for us than they are for anyone else. Our lives are so busy during soccer season, which is pretty much, the entire year, with our daughter. And so Wednesday is the only night that we have where we don't have something going on.
Right.
And so it's a great sort of de-stressor in the middle of the week to sit and talk and about random stuff that makes no sense.
You probably feel the same way since you and Walter do the.
I'm going to say I can definitely identify with this because we do the lives for us.
Yeah,
right. We never know what we're going to be talking about. I'm sure if you've seen them, we are all over the place with that. But yeah, I get what you're saying about that kind of thing, the lives. And I think people enjoy the lives because I think unlike when you're having a sew along or doing a tutorial or an unboxing, I think people start to see the more personal side of the YouTube creator. And I think people like that, they feel like they're there with friends. And that, I think, well, that's basically my goal when we do the lives too. And we have, like you do, you have your regulars that come there, they make comments, you share. It's a great social environment, I think. So do you have any future plans for the YouTube channel and your business as well? Like, do you have some goals you want to reach in the next little while, or?
So we may have different answers on it, but I feel like so much that has come into our life has just been kind of organically, like you just kind of let it go where it's going to go, and you put the most effort you can into it that you're able to put into it, and then it grows at the rate it's supposed to. I feel like anytime on my channel that I've tried to look at what other people are doing because they seem to be growing faster, that it's not true to who I am, and I would like the right people to come to my channel or come do business to us, people that believe in what we're doing, than to try to force it upon people that not at the right moment.
Yeah, I really get that too. I don't do this as a business on my channel. I do it because it's a hobby. I enjoy doing it. And that's, if when I stop enjoying doing it, I'm going to stop and do something else because it's no fun anymore. And what are your thoughts on this, Matthew?
So, I agree with her in that, like, there's no, for the channel at least, there's no long term of, hey, let's turn this into this or let's turn this into this. Really, we have conversations. I mean, it's her channel, right? I'm here for support. But we have conversations about, when we do the lives or when she does a video of trying to thread the needle of, I mean, look, we like our products, but we try not to talk about them too much because we don't want it to become an infomercial. We want people to come for the tutorials or for the unboxings. And if we can throw something out, great. But we try to limit our, hey, everyone, look at this shiny new toy, buy it. Because we don't want that to be what the show or what the
movie's about.
The movie's about.
Yeah.
As far as, since you asked, so I'll address it. But yeah, we've got some new products. So like I said, I developed a couple new prototypes that'll be sent out to people who sign up to be beta testers. They'll take a look at those and hopefully get some feedback, and ideally get feedback in time to put those out for Christmas so people can buy them as gifts. But I think long term, and we probably mentioned this on a live at some point, but long term, I think the goal would be to open up a physical brick and mortar store, where it would be, your mom and pop quilt store that has a bunch of stuff, but also is a chance for people to come and say hi, and for people to see the slide blocks getting made or whatever it is. But that's sort of what I think would be now it's a couple of years down the road, because I want both kids to be out of high school. And they're not really homeschooled anymore. They go to a private school, but they do it from home. So it's a little weird.
Yeah.
What I would really like in a store, and maybe there are some that do it, but I would really like for it to be a place where people don't have to just come there because they're looking for fabric, that they can come and set up their machine and sew with other friends that come up there, and just be able to chat and have a good time, and not have to pay to sit. And so like they can just come up there and sew and chat and have a good time, and it be a place where they can socialize and talk about what they're making, show what they're making, get advice on it, and not feel like they had to come up there and buy some fabric to do that and leave. It just be kind of a friendly place where they can.
It's like a social quilt club that has supplies if you need them.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's actually kind of a nice model, because I've often thought it would be nice to be able to just one day decide, I'm feeling a little cabin fever here. I'm going to grab my sewing machine. I'm going to go down to the local store, and I'm going to sit there for a couple hours and work on something and talk to other people. That's actually why I have pop-up sew days on my channel and things like that, because it's my virtual version of that kind of thing. There's no instruction, there's no tutorials. Come, bring your stuff, chat. It just, like you use the word organic. I hate that word actually, but because all I think of is manure and vegetables. But organic meaning, they come, they discuss things, they share ideas, they may show something they're working on, and the whole bit. And I could see that translating into a brick and mortar place as well. Didn't you say there was a quilt store near you going out of business?
Yeah,
so it's not big enough for what we.
Yeah, I was gonna say you need a big environment for this kind of thing.
Two, unfortunately. One of them is because the developer's forcing people out, we think, and then the other one, they were already going out of business, but then there was the building next door to them had a fire, so it basically burned down. So that's not there anymore.
Yeah, a little pile of ash. So, if somebody wants to get started, now I'm going to ask you, Matthew, first, because this is very unique. We have Quilter, we have alternative products. I don't know what you want to call. I was thinking manufacturing methods and stuff like that. So we have manufacturing, we have quilting in here, and you've meshed the two together very, very well, very successfully, I think. So Matthew, if somebody wanted to get into the woodworking, the metalworking, I mean, you've mentioned a lot of equipment and stuff. What would you suggest to them? How should they get their foot in the door to do this kind of creation with machinery?
So I think it's a great question. And I sort of think about, my kids are teenagers now, but when my son was younger, and my daughter, because they both help out, I was always thinking of how do I get them, because male, female, whatever, I don't care. I think there's basic skills everyone should have. Mm-hmm. How to use a ladder, how to change a light bulb, how to, you name it, right? How to change a tire, for instance. Because these are things that you just need to know. And what I sort of think, for better or worse, is the best way to get into or determine whether or not you even like this sort of stuff, and as basic as it seems, is, and this is maybe more geared towards younger people, but get them an erector set, get them Legos, let them experiment. Like, do they like putting things together? Do they like having to use, for erector sets, screwdrivers and hammers and nails and things like that you're putting stuff together? And if you enjoy that, then just sort of slowly go to the next step, right? So some of the first stuff that I made in woodworking just required a hand drill and a hammer and nails and, a sandpaper. Right? I made a spaghetti tool that had 4 different holes in it for how much spaghetti you wanted to make. Right. right? And that was literally just a piece of pine. I drew 4 holes into it based on corresponding sizes. You sand it down, and then you've got a thing that you can use for the rest of your life.
You should make us one of those.
I know, I gave that one away.
I eat way too much spaghetti.
Yeah.
You could go overboard with that quick.
So I think it's just, the cheapest way to get into something is, one, make sure you actually enjoy doing it. And I think the easiest way to do that is to because you can go to, any hobby store and they have all of these, for $20, you can buy a small project that you have to put together with a hammer, nails, and a screwdriver. Yeah. Try it out, see if you like it, and then start with smaller tools, because jumping right in and buying a $30,000 laser is probably really stupid.
Yeah.
You don't know if you like that.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. So start small, work your way up. If you like it, carry on. If you don't like it, move on to something else. So Fallon, what advice would you give somebody who wants to get started in quilting?
I am probably not the best person to give advice, because I am a jump in and go for it person. I don't need to know anything about something, and I will dive full on it and make things work. I mean, I had so many quilts that I made that I had no idea what I was doing. I just looked at a picture and I was like, this is probably how it's made, and cut it and would just sew them together. And there's probably such an easier way to do that quilt, but I made it work. So
basically, yeah.
I think it's along the same line with what he said, though, is if you're wanting to get started with quilting and you don't have any supplies, then just get the basics of what you need. Just get a sewing machine, get some fabric, get a small, rotary mat, and a rotary cutter, and start slow. You do not need all the bells and whistles, because it may not be for you. It just may not. It's not going to be for everyone. It can be extremely frustrating sometimes when a pattern isn't coming out the way you hoped. Make sure you find a beginner pattern to start with, because if you grab an advanced one, you will never love quilting. Right,
that's for sure. That's definitely for sure. But I do like your philosophy, though, about jumping in, though, like with caution, jumping in with caution. Don't spend a whole lot of money. You both are saying that too. Start small, work your way up. But a lot of people say, oh, I'd love to try quilting, but I just don't know where to start. Well, you just start, and don't worry about the product. Yeah. Enjoy the journey to the product. The rest of the stuff will come with time, right? Because that's what happens. We learn.
Well, that's absolutely right. And I think, I hate social media, and I know YouTube's social media, but
he doesn't have Facebook.
I don't have any social media accounts. I mean, I help her on the YouTube thing, but for all that social media has done wrong in society, one of the best things, and I am an experienced, skilled woodworker, and if I have a question, I'll just go to YouTube and type in, how do I do X, Y, and Z? And I'll find 18 videos that tell me exactly what I need to do. Yeah. So if you're looking to getting into quilting or cheese making or whatever it is, YouTube is such a great resource for videos on how to do stuff. And the nice thing is, it's not like when you go on YouTube and you search, how to make a star block, you'll get a bunch of videos, but you can see how many thumbs up does it have, how many views does it have. So because there's a lot of times I look at stuff on YouTube and it's got 8 views from the last 3 years. I'm like, I probably don't want to trust that guy.
That's probably the one you want to trust. The algorithm just didn't push him out for some reason.
Well, that could be too with that.
But
so, I think what you both have said is very true. Definitely, try it. If you don't, what's the worst that can happen? You don't like it, you move on. That's about it. You don't need to fear it. So before we leave here, I just want to ask you, do you have any parting words, anything that maybe we haven't covered, or something you'd like the people out there to know when they see this?
You first.
Oh, that's not nice.
Oh yeah, put her on the spot. Okay.
Well, if you haven't checked out my channel, definitely come check it out. I think we have a lot of fun over there. If you are thinking about getting into quilting, there are so many resources out there, and I know all of us have a ton of great videos, and ask questions, because one thing I've noticed about quilters is that they are so willing to help you out and answer any of those questions. So if something isn't making sense in a video, or you need a little bit of extra help with it, either comment or even send an email, because I know for sure I would be more than happy to help try to work you through it. And I know a lot of other creators out there are more than willing to as well.
That's true. Anything you want to add, Matthew?
The one thing I will add, I think, and this is quilting specific, is that as someone who's not, I guess I am in a sense a quilter now since I've started 2 quilts.
Yes.
The one thing that I have found to be most surprising, I guess, and also enjoyable about the quilting community is it's everything that's going on in the world, right, is good, bad. I'm sure people get affected by it differently. But in the quilting community, I have found about 0 assholes. And, right?
Yeah.
Like, politics don't come up. Religious doesn't come up. It's how do we help each other become better quilters? People have, they'll watch a video, they'll comment on it with their take, but it's almost always in a positive manner. No one's saying, oh, you did that wrong, this is what you should have done. People say, oh, I do it differently. There's tact. The way in which people interact with each other is really heartening in our current society. And even if you're not a quilter, you may want to just join the quilting community simply because it's filled with a bunch of good people who want to help others.
No, I agree with you. I think we'd bring about world peace if we handed everybody out in the world a quilt kit. Well, I want to thank both of you for spending this time with me. I really liked getting to know you more. I will have your link to your YouTube channel in the show notes below this as well, so people who haven't checked you out can check you out. I wish you all the luck with all your products, because I think your products are absolutely wonderful, and I really wish I kind of lived in your area, because like I said, second mortgage, and that's just the shipping and the exchange rate. But anyways, again, thank you so much for doing this, and I wish you all the luck with your future endeavors in growing your channel and growing your product line as well. So thank you.
Thank you,
sir. Have a good day.